Hey guys and girls, welcome back to a new Photoshop tutorial with psdbox. I'm Andrei, and today I want to show you how I made this simple manipulation that you see here on the screen. It's something that's not really complicated. I will use the same techniques as always, the same workflow, and show you how to combine these stock images to get this fantasy looking tutorial. Now, I don't have a name for it yet, so I thought you could just suggest a name and just put it down in the comments below on the video. And if you come up with something really unique and something cool, something not really long, I thought I would just give away 1 month premium membership for the one that comes with a really cool name for this tutorial. So I will end this contest, or well, like a contest if you want to call it that way, in just a few days. I'm going to put the date on the video description. I didn't think about it yet. It just came to me right now. And I will just announce like the winner of this month premiumship for just giving a cool name for this tutorial. So this will be an intermediate level tutorial. Remember, if you're a Photoshop beginner, I have a free Photoshop course. You can sign up for free. Just I'm gonna add a link on the video description. Also, I'm gonna put a card here on the video, and that will take you to a page where you'll just have to sign up for free using your email, and you will receive a new class every day. And I'm expanding this Photoshop course. I'm gonna add new episodes whenever I can, so you can sign up for that if you're a Photoshop beginner. Now let's get back to this tutorial. You will have everything linked on the description below, and you can download everything from my website, as the PSD file as well, so you can download that for free if you want to. And also, I just want to let you know that I completely redone the resources website. If you follow me, you know I have a resources website only for photo manipulations and stuff like that. So there I upload PNG packs, renders and stuff like that, which I usually use on my photo manipulations. And I'm just going to add a link to that as well if you just want to see what is there. I'm planning to upload, have actually prepared lots of packs to upload, which I will do in the following week. You can download almost everything there for free. You can sign up there and start downloading stuff for your project. It's free for personal and commercial projects as well. So that being said, I hope you will enjoy this tutorial, and let's get started. So as usually, I will start by creating the background. Just by looking at this, you can see the manipulation itself is pretty simple. We just have a foreground here, a blurred background, a model, and some details to fill in the scene and some light effects. And then on top of that, a few general effects. So I will start by creating the canvas. By pressing Ctrl N or Command N, you can create a new document, and I will use 2000 by 3000. And I will use a resolution of 72, and this will be my canvas size. I will start by opening the image of the model and the background, and you can see I used the same image. I just emptied this part out. One other thing that I did is I separated the woman and the background into two separate layers. So you get the pen tool, set the option to path, and you start drawing the path around the woman like that. And once you're done, once you close the path, you right click and choose make selection, and you just have to mask this inner side of this arch. You can use this technique if you want, or you can use the quick selection tool. I think it will also work, and you just have maybe to refine the edges here on the arch. So let me finish this and we continue once I'm done. So this is how the image looks with the background erased. Now, as you can see, I separated the woman. So with the pen tool, I also cropped this bottom part, and I left the woman onto her own layer. And now I will just go back to my canvas, get this image with the move tool. You can select with the V key, just click and drag this to your canvas and put it right over here. I actually want to make it a little smaller just to fit my width here of the image, like so. And I'll grab the woman again, so select the layer with the V key, select the move tool, click on her and just drag it to your other tab, and right click, convert to smart object, and I'm gonna name her model. And this one, I will name it Arch. So what we are doing right now is just make the basic composition. So let's delete the original background and put something there to have on the background. I used an image of a forest. I wanted to go with the black theme for this. I want to have something dark, so I used the dark forest. I think I got this from unsplash.com or Pexels, I'm not really sure, I don't remember, because actually I made this last year in 2019. So I'm gonna open this. I actually made this while I was in class because I was bored, so I found the PSD file and I decided to make a tutorial. So let's paste that over there, and I will make it a little smaller. And actually this part of here, just it's good framing. And I will blur this. I will use the fill blur, and let's see the amount of blur that we can use for this. 15 pixels for this canvas size. I think it's okay, so I will leave it there. But if you use like a really huge canvas size, you want something a little more blurred. The reason why I blurred this is because that way the woman stands out a little more. Now let's start making the whole thing a little darker, because you can see the whole thing here is pretty dark. So let's make some adjustments. So let's start with the arch. I will turn it into a smart object just because I want to use a few adjustments, and I don't want to use them as layers, because that way I can save some space here on the layers panel. So what I will do instead is use a smart object, and I apply the adjustments right on this smart object, and that way they will be converted into smart filters, and that way I will save some space here on the layers panel, but you can work however you like. So the first thing I will do is add a hue saturation by pressing Ctrl U or Command U, and I will set here this to 0, the hue saturation -44, and lightness -67. This will darken the whole thing, but we lose contrast. Just linearly makes this darker, and I don't like it. So I will also use some curves by pressing Ctrl M, and here I will just create a single. You can see here we are lacking highlights. That's why you have no graph here. So what I want to do is just make the whole thing darker from here, and then click somewhere around here and do something like this. Let's see. I want to have some highlights there standing out, so I want to have some contrast between that. You can see from this to this. Now I will also use camera raw, but before I do that, I want to go back to the background and go into the layer styles and use a gradient overlay, and I will use black to white. If you don't see it on this list, just click this setting and choose reset gradients. Usually we'll put the default should be black and somewhere black and white, or just create it yourself if you don't find it there. And I will use the multiply blend mode, opacity to 100%, and I want the dark side to be up, because you can see you have some light there and I don't like that. So I will change the angle accordingly, and from here you can click and drag. You can reset the alignment if it's really off, and just move this around. So I will click OK, and now we're done. Now I will select the arch and the background, right click and choose convert to smart object, because I want to be able to edit both of them at the same time using camera raw. So I will go to filter and choose camera raw filter. If you're using an older version of Photoshop and you don't see the camera raw here, just use a gradient, radial gradient maybe with black and white, put it on multiply and have the white in the center, and just create some sort of vignetting around this, and that's pretty much it. I have camera raw 13.0. I updated my Photoshop version, that's why you see it like this, and I just want to increase the vignette and decrease the midpoint a little bit and increase the feather. And that's pretty much it. Click OK, and this is what I've done. A really quick vignette effect there. Try not to darken the edges of this too much, so just there on the sides. Also, another alternative is just create a new layer as a clipping mask if you want, just so that you know that it belongs to that layer. Use the black color, about 20 opacity on the brush and flow 30. Use a soft brush and just paint around there to darken we're done with the background. Let's name this painted shadow, and let's go with the model. I wanted to have her dress to be dark, black actually. So let's do that. The first thing I want to do is create, well, she's already turned into a smart object, so do that if you didn't already. And before we change the color, let's fix the light on her because she's too bright. So what I will do is go to Image, Adjustments, and I will use Shadows Highlights. This is a really cool adjustment which you cannot use as a layer, so you'll have to go to the menus to do that. And here I will use the following settings. On the shadows, 0, 50, and 30. And for the highlights, 37 on the amount, 64 for the tone, and 77 for the radius. This will drop the light on her, as you can see from here, which is what I want. I want to recover some of the skin tones. Click OK, and now you can see I have that smart object over there. The next thing I want to do is use the hue saturation. So I'm pressing Control U or Command U on Mac, and I will just target the cyans because that's the tones that belong to this. Also, you can use the hand icon and just click on here and drag, but it's going to select the cyans. And from here, I will use the following settings. From here, I will use the following settings. I will use 17 for the hue, saturation -100 because I want to remove all the color, and -30 for the lightness. You can give this any color you like. I just want it to have black. And one thing you will notice is that I have this white line around. You can fix that by using a layer mask, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Control click the model thumbnail on the layers panel. This will select the edges and create a layer mask. And now you have to edit that layer mask by right clicking and choosing select and mask or refine edge or whatever the setting you have depending on your Photoshop version. And here on the shift edge, I will use -15, usually something, a value that works. And then I will increase the feather, let's say 1 pixel or 2, or well, these are, yeah, those are pixels. And then increase the contrast, and you can see that line goes away. Now, if it doesn't, just increase the feather a little bit and shift the edge a little more, and make sure you have a pretty high contrast value here. Don't go overboard because it's going to sharp the edges too much, and that's not going to be realistic. To about 50%, I think it's okay. And you can see that now this edge went away. Let me just show you the original before and after. Be careful with this because if you have some really fine detail like hair or something like that, it's going to go away. So after you do that, you'll have to click OK, and maybe you have to paint back some of the details if you already had a layer mask created, because you can see we lost some edge there. Okay, now we're done with the dress. Well, actually not. Let's add a curves adjustment as well. So I'll press Control Command M, and I'll add a 1 point over there, and I'm gonna set the output to 52 and the input to 91. Make sure that you use the input and output value correctly, because if you're using a layer, these are actually inverted. The input will be the first number and the output the second one. But if you're using this panel using the keyboard shortcut, it's going to be like that. That's why I say input and output, not just give you the values that I put here on this fields. So on the second point, I have an input of 175 and an output of 175 and an input of 206. This darkens the dress, as you can see. Let me show you the before and after, maybe even too much. So probably I will drop the opacity of this adjustment. How do you do that? Well, if you click this arrow here, you will expand the smart filters, and from here you can see all the filters that I added. I have the curves, the hue saturation, and the shadows and highlights. If you click this icon over here, if you double click it, actually you will open the blending options only for that particular smart filter, in this case my curves. And I'll drop the opacity to, let's try 60. Yeah, I think it's looking good. And click OK. One other thing to notice is that these curves will be applied to the whole image. If I want to reduce the curves amount only on the skin, I cannot do that. This here is a layer mask, the layer mask of these filters. But if I paint on it with black, let's say I want to reduce the amount of shadow or the amount of curves that I added on the dress. And if I do that, if I paint here, let me just increase the opacity and flow, you can see that it removes the 3 layers, the 3 adjustments. So this mask will affect the 3 adjustments equally. So if you just want to reduce or just darken the dress without affecting the skin, you'll have to create layers independently. You cannot do it using smart filter. So that's one of the limitations you have with smart objects. That is, if you want to use more than one. Now we're almost done with the model. I want to add one more thing. You can see that the bottom part here is really dark, but the dress kind of stands out too much. So I will go into the layer styles, and again I will add a gradient overlay just like I did with the background, and I'll change the angle, and I will use black and white on multiply. And the reason why I use multiply, I guess you already know by now, but anyways, is because the white will go away and I will only have the transition from black to transparent. And I will drag this down like so, maybe scale a little smaller. Let's move on and let's start adding the details on this. Now I will start by using that frame. So I will open this image, it's from Deposit Photos. I will give you just one frame. If you're a premium member, you will be able to download everything in high resolution. I purchased this from Deposit Photos. You can see it's pretty huge. And I will just give you this one for here for the YouTube viewers. So it's really simple to extract this. Just use the magic wand. A tolerance of about 27 I think is okay. I will deactivate the contiguous option because I want to select everything that is white. Now I think the selection is okay. Let's see. Oh, it's going to select this part as well, so probably I have to lower the tolerance, copy it, and just paste it here behind my model on top of the background. The size of this frame should reach about there, the hand of the woman. Okay, now we have this. Let's name it frame, and let's add more details. Let's add that crow standing over there. So you'll have 2 of them. This is from Deposit Photos. This is for the premium members, but I don't really like the way the crow stands. So I use this one. I think it's from unsplash.com. Those are Unsplash and Pexels are the 2 webs I use the most. And also resources.psdbox.com, which is my own website because I like to create my own resources, and I included the link to that on the video description. So from there you can use the stock that you find there for your commercial projects as well. You will see that I'm not going to worry too much about the edges because this is a pretty big animal, and I'll have to make it way smaller, which means the edges will gonna get a lot better once you reduce the size of an object. Let's turn this into a smart object and continue to make it smaller. Well, I think this size will be okay. Now with this, I also want to get rid of the tail. So actually, I'm kind of stupid. I could have used the frame. So control click the frame, go into the Raven layer and just paint out the tail. That's much better. Okay, now we have the crow there. I have to desaturate it. So press Control Command U, because this is a smart object. It's going to turn it into smart filter. And that's my crow unsaturated, and probably drop the lightness a little bit just to make it a little darker. The same we should do with the frame. I will desaturate it a little. I don't remember the exact values that I used here, but you have the PSD file. You can download it for free, as I said, and you can take a look if you want to. I'm just trying to get the same look just by eye, and that's it. And I know this has to be darker, so I will use some curves as well. And if you're asking yourself, when do you use curves? Because sometimes I use just curves and, I just use the hue saturation just like I did before. And if you're asking why don't you just use lightness and just drop it like that? But well, the reason why I don't do this, and this is just a starting point. So I drop the lightness of it, but you lose contrast when you do that. If I deactivate the curves, you can see it's kind of flat. And with the curves, you can actually increase the contrast. So you can further make this a little darker and then increase the lights a little bit. And you can see how those highlights start to stand out a little more. And that's why I use both things. Let's start adding some light effects, because after we add the light effects and some glows there on the background, we can actually add the details as silhouettes, as you can see right over here. But if you don't have the lights, you don't really know where to put them. So first we're going to create the fire and the highlights there, well, the light effects, and then we will add the plants and those details there. Now, how do we do that? That's really simple. We're going to start with the stock image of the fire, and then we can go on and paint some of those light effects. So let's open our stock folder. And I have a couple of images of fire. This one, you can use any image of fire you like. On my website, on resources.psdbox.com, I actually have, I think, 2 packs of fire effects. One I made a few years ago is not really suitable for this particular effect that I'm looking for, but the other one it is, because you have lots of flying embers and stuff like that. So I just want the first fire to be there on the background like that. You don't want to have something like this. And then maybe I'll add the other one as well. This one is cool because we also have the embers, which we will use later again. So we'll just crop parts of it. But for now, we can use this image as well there on the background. And I didn't mention it, but I used the screen blend mode, okay, to get rid of the black background and just have the light effect itself. And probably I will add this one over here. So you see it adds this those flying embers, and then we have this like ambient effect. Now be careful with the first one. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but you have this line over here. That means the black background is not really black. So press Ctrl Command L and just use the black slider to move it slightly towards the, no, not on this one, on the first image. Just move the black slider and you will see that that line will go away, because you're making the background completely black. Now we're good to go with the fire, so let me just group this and name this fire. And now we have to create the light effects. So this is something a little different that I usually do on manipulations. Usually I leave the light effects more for towards the end of the tutorial, but as I said, here I need to have the glows and everything, because I want to add those details and I want to be able to add those silhouettes there. And since I have the background really black, I will not be able to tell where the detail is. That's why I need something to have contrast. So I will create this light layer on top of everything. Let's name it light. Let's name it light 1, because I will probably use 2. I'm not sure yet. And I will set the blend mode of this to color dodge. And I'll get the brush tool and I'll use a soft brush. And I'll drop the opacity to 50 and the flow to 30%. And I'll start with this color. Now, on previous tutorials, I already mentioned this. The color that you choose really, maybe is not going to work for you. So it really depends on your background, the amount of light that you have and the colors that you have on your image. Because if I use this color and start to paint, for my taste, it's too red. I don't think this is realistic, but maybe it will work for you. So it really depends on how dark you made this. So in my case, I want to have something more, I will change the hue to something more towards yellow, not that close to the red tones. And maybe I will not saturate it that much. And let me try again. So building up the effect, I think this one works. So I will do this. I will do with this color. The reason why I dropped the opacity and the flow on the brush is because I want to build up the effect myself gradually. So I want to paint the edges of this pillar over here, but the problem is that I merged the image and I no longer have the selection, so I probably shouldn't have done that. But anyways, I will paint it manually and then delete it because we have a straight line, so we are lucky with that. We can do it a little quicker. So let me just start painting around here like so. Okay, and now I'll get the eraser, make sure I have a hard brush, and just click once over there, shift click there, and you'll create a straight line and you'll delete the effect. And let's do the same here. And now we only have the light painted over there. We can do the same with, well, actually we should do the same with the frame, but on the frame I want to also add some gradient overlay, just like I did with the woman's dress, because I want to make it darker on the bottom. And here I will control click it to select the edges. I will go back to the light one layer and I will start painting on the edges. Now you can paint this manually or you can use a layer style. I will do it manually really quick, but I don't like those marching ends. They bother me, so I'm gonna press Ctrl H to hide the selection. It's still active, but it's not visible. And paint here. Now I'll probably have to change the color here to something a little more saturated. And the same we could do with the woman's dress. Control click her and just paint some light on the dress itself. Now you already know me, you know how to paint this kind of lights if you watched my tutorials, and I'm doing this really quick. I would actually paint the light here on the folds as well, and that's more time consuming. It's a quick tutorial. I don't want to spend too much time doing that, but if you take your time, you can make some pretty cool light effects. And the same here, you could go ahead and paint this. Now that we have the first light, let me just create the second one and name it light 2. And this one I will put on screen. The other one was on color dodge. And this is just to create glows of light. Again, use a soft brush, hardness set to 0, opacity in this case I will use it 100%, and the flow as well. I will deactivate the transfer, and I will use I will decrease the opacity to 50%, not just to 100%, because I want to again gradually build up the effect. Now this light too should be on top of the background behind the woman and maybe on top of the fire, but behind the model, the frame and everything else. And this color is too strong, or actually drop the opacity, not the color, and just make a few clicks. Well, just click a few times to just create some glows of light. I think this is too strong. So just a couple of light glows over there, and that's pretty much it. Not too much. I think that's enough. Okay, now we can start adding those details I was talking about. So I will open my stock folder again, and let's start with those thorns. I will not add all of them because you have lots of images here, have images of roses, so you can use all of them. I will start with this one because I like it and I think it looks good. Now simply we have a black background. You can use channels. I have a tutorial on how to use calculations to actually get rid of the background using channels, and I will link that video in here if you want to use that technique. But let's try now using the magic one, because I think it's a simple tool to use, and this is a small detail which does not require too much quality on the edge. So just shift click the blue background and you can see the selection that it creates. I'm using a tolerance of 11 and contiguous option unchecked. And now go back to the layer, create the layer mask with alt click. You create it already inverted. Right click and choose select and mask. And again, here I'm gonna shift the edge a little bit, increase the feather, and then increase the contrast to about 50% and click OK. The usual workflow when I fix edges. I don't even look at them. I know these values work pretty much well for me, and those are the values that I use. Now, I will paste this on top of the light too, behind the frame, the woman, the raven, and the light one. So I will paste that there, and I will group it. I will name this BG details. And you can see it's pretty big. That's why I say I'm not too worried about the quality of the edges, because I will make it smaller and those edges will improve by themselves. And let's see how big I should make them. I think this size is okay. And now we have to get rid of the color and the light. So let's name this thorns. Press Control Command U. I'm not even turning it into a smart object because I know I'm not going to modify this any other way. Put it right over there, and I will actually blur it. I will use some Gaussian blur, not too much. 1 pixel or something like that. I think it's enough. Have it there like so. You can, and maybe it would look good if you add some, you can see the edge there on the file. That's what I was talking about. Make sure you don't see this straight edges. It's not looking good. Now on this thorns, I will go into the layer styles, add some inner shadow, and I will use an angle. I will deactivate use global light. An angle of about 30 I think is okay. I will use an orange color, just like the fire, because I'm trying to make the fire on the edges. And I will use the color dodge blend mode. And opacity, of course, higher. And distance of 3 is okay. Size 7 is not okay. Size, I'll probably set it to 3 or something like that. And you can see the edge there. I think it looks nice, but it's too red, so I'll go more towards yellow, I think. Yeah, that looks better. Click OK, and you can see how that looks like. Now you can do the same with pretty much all the details that you have on the resources folders. So open the stock folder, and I will add this other stock image, which is this one, also from Deposit Photos. You'll have a smaller resolution, but you will be able to use it. And again, select the background, get rid of it with the layer mask, or just simply delete it. Crop it, put it right over here, and of course we have to make it smaller. And the amount of details you add here really depend on your taste, on what you really like to create. You can add some other stuff. You can add like birds or something. I don't know. It's really up to you. And I will use the same settings as I used for the other one. If you press Option Command U or Alt Control U on Windows, you will apply the last hue saturation you used. And I'm using the same settings. And again, I'm also going to blur this just 1 pixel or so. And I will use the same layer style. Option click the FX from the other from the thorns and drag it on top of this other, which I will name thorns 2. They are not thorns. Those are not thorns, but anyways. And I will go into the layer styles because I want to shift the edge. That's why I didn't use the global light. I will just turn this that way, and that's it. Okay, now we have those details there. Let's start adding some more life here. I used roses, and actually I used this one. I got this from DeviantArt. You can see the link over here. I will put it on the video description as well if you want to go visit this account. I think they have more PNG stock images, and this one is just awesome. I really love it, and that's why I use it. You have some others from here. I think these are also from DeviantArt as well, and these ones are from Deposit Photos. This one is not. This is from DeviantArt. I'm planning to create a pack of ivy and plants myself. I actually have some on resources.psdbox.com, but let's start with the roses. Let's not make it too long. Let's delete this credit mark, copy this and I will paste this on top of the women like that. Now actually I have to paste it on top of the light as well. So on top of everything. And let me check how I added this here. Yeah, actually I added this underneath the woman. And you have some other images. Just take a look at how I used them here and try to do the same if you like that outcome. You have this single one here which you can use. You have these ones, but these ones you have to extract them yourself. You can use the quick selection tool and just grab them, and that's it. You don't have to worry too much about the background, so you don't have to use the pen tool to carefully just paint around them. You can use the quick selection tool and actually use them. Let me try it and show you how that works. So get the quick selection tool. Let's say I want to have these ones on my image. I'm just going to select them like so. You can even select a few leaves if you want to. And I don't want to do that. I just want to have some of the roses themselves. Now I will copy this and go back to my image. Let's close this and paste it right over there. And that's pretty much it. You can see you can put it down there and you're good to go. Now let's name this Rose 2 and the other one Rose 1. Okay, so you can also add some of them in front, but I just added them on the back. And well, actually using them, using the other one, or actually just paste this one on top, is going to create more depth of fill. So make sure you add some of them on top of the dress as well, or some flower that just covers the dress, because it's going to make it look more interesting, and I think it's going to look better. So make sure you add some of them on top of the dress. Now, our job here is to integrate this with the background. You can see they should be darker a little bit. So you have to use hue saturation for that. Desaturate the thing a little bit and drop the lightness like that. And then use curves, just like we did before, to just increase the contrast, but keep them dark and contrasty. So do the same with those roses and with this one as well. Just try to make them darker to integrate them a little more with that background. Now with this particular roses here, we have a problem, which is the light is painted right on top of them. The way you get rid of it is control click the Rose 2, go into the light one and just press delete, and this will get rid of that light. And of course everything that you add should interact with the light. So on the Rose 2 I could use the same layer styles as I use on the thorns. Let's see if I can find them. So just drag them over there and just use the same layer style on the Rose 1 as well. But you can see this one is not working because the color is not right. So you should change the tone of it, make it darker, and probably change the angle a little bit, and click OK. And we're pretty much done. Now the next thing I want to do is add some of those details there also on the front and blur them, just so that I get more depth of field. The thorns, I will just put them higher here, just to stand out a little more. And I actually am going to copy this on the top like that, and you'll see what I'm going to do. I will make them really big, like so. Put them right over there, and I will probably get rid of the style. I will see. And now I will blur them. Filter. I will use the fill blur because I like it better. I think it has more quality. And here on the blur gallery, I will use about, this is already blurred, so I will just use 10. Just add 10 more pixels on the blur that it already had. And I will disable the layer style for a second just to see how it looks like. I don't know. I will just leave it disabled for now, and I'll see how it looks like and put it there. You can see this little twig here is enough to just give me a little more depth of field. And I will do the same with this one with thorns too. I'll put it here on top, and again make it pretty big like that, and apply the same amount of blur. and disable the style for now. Maybe I'll activate it later, but for now I will disable it. And one other thing that I added is some ivy crawling up here on this pillars. It's really easy, and you just open these files. You have them on white background, so you will be able to extract them really quickly with a magic wand. So just mask that out, apply, and paste this on top here. You have to make it smaller. So it's really the same over and over again. Add the element and integrate it on your background to fit the tones and everything you have. I will flip it horizontally, this one, because I think it's going to fit better. Okay, so I will just add one, but you will see that I have two here, like, and some others flying around there. So just put it there, use hue saturation. I will desaturate it quite a lot and darken it, and use curves. So I'm doing it really quick, but that's essentially the workflow. Okay, and of course you have to use the style that we use. Well, actually, I think it's going to look good, but we'll see. It's too strong, obviously. So I will use another tone and something a little darker, and probably use more size to make the effect softer, maybe 5, and now a stronger effect, like so, and probably a little more distance, like 4 or something like that, and click OK. And some drop shadow. Let's see how that looks like. Yeah, I think it's look. One other thing I want to add is you can add some dust or something like that there on the background if you want. And I will show you a simple way of doing it if you don't have any stock image. Basically, you create a new layer. I will fill it with black and go to filter, render, and I will choose, let's try with fiber. You can try clouds, but let's try fibers. Make sure you have black and white here on the foreground and background color, and create this fibers texture. Really simple. Now blur it, and just use some Gaussian blur. Let's see how much we can add for this. Something like that. You still want to see that it has this motion. Click OK, and now I'll change this to to screen. Okay, and I will rotate it like so, and just make it smaller like that. And here now you can use curves or something to just darken that and have just a few, like we had too much white there, so I want to make it darker and just have a few lines there like so. And now with the layer mask I can just mask out part of this and probably squeeze it, and with Control T you can load the free transform and choose the warp tool and kind of warp this and make it look however you like. And it's even too visible, so I'll drop the opacity even more, just a few lines like that. This will create a soft mist around there. And now you can add the rest of the embers. As I said, I will use this image of the embers, and just I'll show you how I do it. I just get part of them like so, copy that, and I will put it on top of everything, and I'm actually going to group it, and I will name it embers and just paste that image there, and change the blend mode to screen. And now I have to make this really big, well, not really big, but kind of big, like so. And make sure you make it black enough so that no edges are visible. And if you zoom in, you will see that the quality is pretty bad, so you have to blur this a little bit, just enough so that the quality just goes away. And I'll add some Gaussian blur, 1 pixel or 2 or 3, really depends on how big those embers are. Actually, I think they're even too big, so just create a few ones flying around there, and let's copy a few ones from here as well. You can leave some of them at their original size if you want to. Just add a few ones here to just fill in the scene. That always looks nice if you add all sorts of light effects, flying embers, or particles in general. That's how I added those, well, that mist effect as well. So just having a few ambiental particles will fill in the scene and will make it look more interesting. And I think it's always a good thing to do. I forgot to add some of them here on the dress, so make sure to add some of them there. Now we're done with this. Of course, you can go on and add as many details as you want. I also didn't make any kind of adjustments to the crow here. I should add some shadows, maybe cast some shadow over there, maybe work more on the skin. You could even add some details or add some accessories over there. I don't know, it's really that, I'll leave that up to you. But the general idea of how I made this is this. So next I will create the stamp and I'll do my camera raw thing, right click, choose convert to smart object and go to camera raw, because you can really change the way this looks here in camera raw. So on the basic, maybe I would increase the vibrance a little bit and probably change the temperature to something a little more bluish. I will see that. What else? We could add some, let's go into the effects and add more vignetting to the overall image. Pretty strong. Midpoint set almost, well, to 0 and increase the feather a lot. And now go back and reapply, well, reduce the amount just to get something you like. What else we could do on color grading? Now they included this color grading thing here, which it's pretty cool. You have the midtones, the shadows, and highlights, so you can work on them separately. So you can give more, maybe to the to your midtones you can give them this color, to the shadows something a little more bluish probably, or yeah, something like that, and on the highlights maybe something more yellow will look good. I don't know. And what else? On the calibration, I really like this. You can change the tones of your colors here and make them look however you like. Just give a different look to the whole image. And of course you can, I don't know what they put, yeah, the radial filters, they put them right here on the side. You can of course add tones of colors from here. I don't really know how this looks. Yeah, you can change the hue. I want to change the hue of this. I will set it to 0. It's the first time I try the radial filters with this new interface. And I just want to add some contrast and probably change the temperature here on the middle and increase the clarity. I don't know the texture. What is that for? I think it just add more sharpness to the whole image. And saturation I think is okay. I will click OK, and this is my final image, before camera raw and after. So I hope you enjoyed this. Remember, I will give away a 1-month premium membership to any of you who just give me a really cool name for this manipulation, for this tutorial. And I will announce this in a few days. I will put actually the date here on the video description when I will announce it. And I will send a newsletter out and just comment here on the video as well to let you know which of you is the winner, and also post it on my community tab here on YouTube. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching and see you next time.